Are you ready to crack the code on closing bigger deals and landing better clients? Welcome to The Closing Code, the podcast for sales pros and agency owners who want to master the art of selling high-ticket digital marketing services. In each episode, your hosts, Clinton James and Josh Konigsberg, bring you real-world strategies, actionable insights, and proven tactics to help you level up your sales game. No fluff, no gimmicks, just the tools you need to win more deals and build a thriving agency. Let's get started.
Hey, I'm Josh Konigsberg.
And I'm Clinton James, and welcome to another awesome episode of the Closing Code podcast. How are we doing this week, Josh?
Amazing, good stuff happening today. Super excited about today. We're diving into one of the most underrated sales tools there is. That's your mindset.
You know, you always show up with such a sunny disposition whenever I meet with you, Josh. And I've got to be completely transparent. Mindset, while I recognize the importance of it, it's always been something that I've struggled with, whether it's in sales, in life, hell, even when I was an athlete. It was something that I struggled with. So this is a really, really good topic, and I'd love to dive in deep with you and get some insight.
Well, this could be a long one.
Well, it can't be too long, right? But let's give our audience a little value there, right? So in terms of agencies and selling digital marketing services on retainer, salespeople are tasked with a lot of different things, whether it's lead generation, whether it's marketing. Sometimes they get roped into customer support issues there. And sometimes it's really hard to maintain a positive mindset or a mindset that's necessary to effectively close more business for the agency there, right? So while I'm one of the owners, I'm really in a fortunate position because I've got two business partners that really operate well in their silos. One oversees kind of overall strategy for the agency as well as finance. The other is on the operations and fulfillment side. And I kind of try to stay in my lane as best as possible in terms of sales and marketing, right? But that doesn't mean I don't get roped into other parts of the business. And I'll tell you, sometimes that's ugly. And sometimes it has a negative impact on my mindset. And I know that impacts my ability to close business. Do you ever find yourself in the same situation, Josh?
So, I've really worked hard over the years to change my mindset, and have an, almost like it's a never give up, no quit attitude, and I don't necessarily want to say you need to be an athlete, but I think athletes that have gone through the training and as I think it was ABC Sports, was the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. You almost need to train your mind to not quit. You've got to push yourself past the pain threshold that, we all believe there's this threshold and there isn't, right? So I think that, um, to train, and again, getting back to athletes, I've been trained. I played ice hockey, and it was extremely physically demanding. One of my coaches was a Marine drill instructor. You go back to, I'll never forget. He walked into the locker room the first day of practice and passed around the hockey puck and made sure everybody in the locker room got to touch the puck. And he said, "That's the last time you guys are going to touch a puck for the next 3 weeks."
Yeah.
So,
It's funny you bring up sports, Josh, because one of our mutual friends that's in the group with us in Josh Nelson's 7FA, that is Matt Platt. And Matt has really shared a lot of insight in terms of his hiring practices when it comes to salespeople, right? He intentionally goes after like previous athletes, right? We're not just talking about high school athletes, like Division I athletes, because he knows that they probably have the mindset that equips them the best to be successful in sales there. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a former athlete to have success in sales, but I definitely think, as he mentions and as you just mentioned, there is a lot to be said for someone that has the mindset and has had that level of success in sports, because I think that carries over really, really well into the sales arena.
yeah, and so let's not exclude the people who weren't necessarily athletic and what they need to do. So let me just give you a quick statistic that salespeople with a growth mindset That means that, you're predisposed to seeing opportunity that lies ahead, right? So salespeople with a growth mindset will outperform those with a fixed mindset by up to 47% over time.
I 100% believe that, right? So sometimes we put ourselves in a position where we need to ask ourselves, is the reason that we're not closing, it might not have anything to do with our pitch and might have everything to do with how we see ourselves,
That's
right? And how we show up when we're having sales conversations with prospects there. So I know personally, and again, this is where I want to be super transparent with the audience. I am not a master at mindset. I've implemented things that I do on a daily and weekly basis to try to improve my mindset, but I know I've got a lot of work still to do, right? I still struggle with negative talk. I still struggle with fear of rejection. Sometimes I don't always have the emotional resilience that's necessary to move from one sales conversation to an internal L10 meeting back into another sales conversation there. Um, so,
What I would do in that case is I would not go to the L10, and I've actually
fortu
done it.
yeah. Unfortunately, I think that there is a lot of insight and value that I bring to those conversations that have other impacts on the business.
Sure.
So I try not to, but I do appreciate the point though, right? So like Jim Moline is another example. He's in 7FA with us as well. He's one of the coaches there, does a great job, is my agency's coach. And he talks a lot about when he was building Roofer Marketing. That was the agency that he owned at the time. He was very intentional in terms of positioning the salespeople in the sales department as far away from customer success or account management as possible, right? Because he doesn't want them to hear any of the challenges, any of the negativity that might be coming out of that part of the business there. And man, I get it, man. You want to silo salespeople in this environment of nothing but people sharing wins and best practices
That's
and
right.
what's going
That's
to
right.
get everybody to step their game up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
In some of the businesses that you've worked with in the past, Josh, did you guys segment the sales team kind of away from some of the other departments?
Yeah, 100%. Jim is spot on, love him. He's, just done a phenomenal job, and he's spot on. You wanna build that wall between the salespeople and what's happening with on the client end, the client-facing stuff. Now they need to know what the deliverables are, and if one of their clients is not getting things delivered that they're depends on how your commission structure's set up. So if they're getting commissioned on an ongoing basis, which I'm not a fan of, because turnover churn is so high, right? Um, then that but if they are, then, they may need to know what's going on because, their commission's dependent upon it, right?
Sure.
But then again, that creates a lot of internal conflict with your team, which you don't want as well, because now you've got 2 negative things happening that can change the mindset and make it more negative. Look, we're all human beings. We're all people are going to make mistakes. That's part of being in business, right? So the issue is that when that happens, how you recover. But I don't want to necessarily go down the deliverable path. I want to stay on the sales side.
Yeah, Leah, I
So
100%
so
agree.
so so let's focus on how we change our mindset from a negative thought process, and it all creeps in, right? Because
Mhm.
we all make mistakes, to being more positive. So every the great inventor Thomas Edison had a quote. It was a great quote. It took him 10,000 tests or trials to develop the filament for the light bulb. 10,000. That means he failed 999 thousand times, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's a smart number, right?
that's a lot of rejection. I think I've been rejected that much in sales over the last year. Sometimes it feels that way.
So if you have a never quit, never give up attitude, like I mentioned earlier, he finally figured it out on the 10,000th approximately time to develop the light bulb. Otherwise, we'd all still be in the dark, right? So, so metaphorically and so my point is that we're going to make mistakes, and if you use those mistakes as a tool to learn and improve your skills, that changes the mindset because now Each mistake brings you closer to your goal. So don't beat yourself up on it. And we all have those moments during the day, whether it's a mistake. I can think of mistakes. Why did I do that 15 years ago? Right? Why did I say this to my brother? I should have been more patient with him, or whatever the scenario is. As human beings, we all think through that. It's all about self-improvement. And then if you reframe it to being to about improvement, it changes everything. One of the things I've done this year is, and you've heard me say it probably 100 times already, when people ask me, "How you doing?" I'm doing amazing. I'm amazing, Clinton. Now think about that subtle little statement, and if I say it over 10 times over a day, 70 times a week, what happens over the course of the year? How many times? I've said it almost 1,000 times.
I love that, Josh, because when people ask me how I'm doing, I don't always respond with "I'm amazing," right? And maybe if I made that slight little adjustment there, doesn't matter what's going on, what the weather looks like, doesn't matter what the circumstances are. If I every time somebody asked me how I was doing, if I said "amazing," that might actually be a great tool to kind of shift my mindset there.
And Clinton, you are amazing. So
Well, some days are better than others.
yeah, well, aren't we all though? That's part of being a human being, right? Right now I'm fighting a little thing. I had to go to the doctor yesterday. I'm taking antibiotics. I'm amazing.
I like that.
I've been sharper, but I'm amazing.
That's a great tip for our audience there, right? So that's a simple, actionable item that everybody can do right after they listen to this podcast is every time somebody asks you how you're doing, come hell or high water, you're doing amazing, right?
Right. Whatever the adjective that you decide that you want to use to describe yourself,
Yep.
just
I
so
like
it's
it.
positive and uplifting for you internally. What does that mean for you internally, for your spirit, right? So your mindset again, it's almost, it's if we go back to, there's the devil on one shoulder and the saint on the other shoulder guiding us through our conscious in the decision-making process as children, if you remember it being described that way.
Mhm.
And so we've all seen the cartoons and whatnot. And so the devil's going to creep in. It's going to creep into your head throughout the day. And so, that there's a whole lot to be said, and I don't want to get into the spiritual, whole thing, but there's a lot to be said for that. And so there's a lot to be said for manifestation and prayer. So that the things that you're manifesting and praying for all should lead to positive things. And if you surround your life, and again, this maybe would be better saved for the end of this conversation, but if you surround your life with the mindset of having empathy and compassion for other people, how does that make you feel? Because at the end of the day, isn't that what matters most? I heard a great quote the other day. It was, "I'm less concerned." It's not what people are. It's. I guess it's almost a scorecard statement. It's not what people are saying about me now. Now it's what people are saying about me, or my eulogy, right?
Wow. Okay. I like that.
Right?
I like
So
that.
so so that if you're giving back to your community, if you're like we're doing right now, okay? If you're giving back and you're involved in charitable events and you're constantly striving to have compassion for others less fortunate. It just happened to me yesterday coming out of the pharmacy. Guy was sitting there in his mid to late 20s, is on a bicycle. He was down and out on his luck and he asked me for some money as I'm coming out of the CVS pharmacy, picking up the prescription for what I'm dealing with right now. And I said, "Wait right there. I'll be right back." I walked to my car. In my car, I keep a stack of $5 Subway gift cards. I grabbed 2 of them, walked back to the guy. I could have just drove away, right? Walked back, gave him 2 cards, young man, go get yourself something to eat."
Man, I love that. And
Right?
that's exactly the person that I have always known you to be, Josh. So it is not a surprise to me that you do that, and that you live that life. Let's get back into kind of actionable strategies, right? So things that our audience can take away. So first, I want to talk about is rejection, kind of reframing rejection, because you mentioned this earlier. Being a salesperson is when you make that decision to sell, you're committing to a certain level of rejection during the course of your career, right? It just happens. Nobody close. I got a great close rate, but I don't close 100% of the prospects that I talk to, right? So for me, it's really about looking at every no as just a data point, right? It's not a personal failure. I didn't fail this sales conversation. I just got a no, and it's a pathway for me to find the right client, the client that is going to say yes and be a great fit for me and my
That's
agency,
right.
right?
That's right. So there's a couple different ways to look at the rejection. First and foremost, if you have a 100% close rate, you don't have enough leads. But let's just get that out of the way, right?
Or what everybody tells me is your prices are too low, right?
Right, there you go. So, which means you need to raise your prices, which means you're not gonna have a 100% close rate.
Right.
So, it's not personal. Not everybody's the right fit. You know, any eh, unless you look like I'll go back to for those male salespeople out there, right? If go back to dating, we've all had that feeling of walking up to a woman in a bar and asking for a phone number or whatever the line might be. Um, and we've all been rejected by it, right? So unless you're Brad Pitt or someone like
Yeah,
that,
I'm willing to bet that even Brad Pitt has a story of rejection in his
yeah,
life, right?
100%. That's right. That's right. So that being said, there, if you treat it as POF, plenty of fish, there's plenty of fish. How big is your universe? How big is my universe?
Yep.
Right? So not everybody's a right fit. Not everybody, and again, if you treat it as a learning opportunity, right? To figure out, hey, what did I do? That's why I record every single sales call I make. And if I don't close the deal, I go back and I'll look at it.
I like that. I
And
like that
again, so look
self-evaluation.
at it as here's the other thing. Because the universe is so big, there's almost an infinite number of law firms for me to sell to. Almost an infinite number. You can't service all of them, right?
No,
All of the water restoration companies out there,
cannot.
right? What percent of the market could you realistically expect to acquire and service properly?
Yep.
So that means that it's almost like a video game. What do I mean by that? So if you're, I'm not a gamer, but if I'm playing a video game and I die, what happens?
Just
I
start another game.
got it, don't I?
Yeah,
I get another game. So if you look at the rejection as just a game, then you can laugh it off and go get the next one. Again, that changes the mindset dramatically, doesn't
Uh,
it?
that actually leads into our second strategy here, right? Which is control the controllables, right? Because no matter how good you are as a salesperson, how good you are at presenting your solution to prospects, you ultimately can't control the outcome. You can point a prospect in the right decision and make a purchasing decision with you, but you really have limited control in terms of whether or not that client actually says yes, right?
Right.
But what you can control every single time is the activity, the energy, and what you always preach, the preparation that you do before you go into that conversation so that you set yourself up for success, right?
And look, you can only control what you can control,
Mm.
right? So again, if you don't come prepared and you don't close the deal, there's the lesson. You got to be prepared.
Yeah.
So you can control your energy. How am I coming across today? How I come across on the podcast? How do you come across on the podcast? Same type of energy. Now, actually, I've been told that I'm so excited about what I do and about helping these people fulfill their dreams because that's what we do.
Mhm.
That I've come across as too salesy. So I've actually had to tone back my energy.
I I don't want you to tone back your energy. Not today, Josh. Not with our audience, man. I want you at level 10 every single time we
You
do our
got it, man. Here I am. Um, so that control what you can control your environment, shut your office door, put a sign on the door, strategy session in, do not disturb, strategy session in process, podcast in session, do not disturb, whatever. So that you now really control the environment.
love
Okay.
that.
And
Love
so there's things that you can train your mind just like anything else. What the mind can perceive, the mind can achieve. I can't remember who said that. I think it was Dale Carnegie in Think and Grow Rich. Was it Dale Carnegie? No, he wrote How to Win Friends. Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
What the mind can perceive, the mind can achieve. So if you begin the affirmations earlier, I talked about manifestations, affirmations. I said prayer. It's really affirmation. Same thing. You know, you close with confidence, right? This is why we build that wall between you and fulfillment. Can you close with confidence, right? I'm confident my team's gonna be able to to do what I am I'm selling a 10. I sell a 10. Clinton, I know you sell a 10. That's what you have to believe, that's the affirmation. So I'm closing with confidence, it's a 10.
But before you get off the morning affirmations thing, because this is morning routine is actually something that I've really dialed in over the last few years that I think has really helped me from a mindset standpoint, right? Some guys in our networking group have commented Clinton's a crazy man, right? Because I get up at 4:30 in the morning, I go to the gym, I get a couple hours worth of a workout in before I even start my day. And honestly, it's not about the aesthetics or sometimes it's not even about the physical health. I mean, those are byproducts and I certainly enjoy that. But for me, it is a mindset thing, right? It allows me to get my energy level up. It allows me to accomplish something. And for me, when I get in and I kill a workout in the morning, that's a win, right? I already put a win on a W on the board before I even get started with my work day there. What are some of the things that you do in the morning to kind of set yourself up for success, Josh?
Yeah, so I'm a different routine, and I've historically not been a morning person. I've tried working out at 5 AM. It just doesn't work for me. So my typical routine is this. Before I get out of bed, I practice gratitude and I get excited for my day. I am so grateful for the abundance and prosperity and the opportunities that I have been given that have led to that abundance and prosperity. So, so grateful. So if you have gratitude, you can't be angry, you cannot be depressed, right? You cannot be spiteful, right? So gratitude is a big part of that. And then I tell myself that I am so excited about what's going to happen today, even though I don't necessarily know what's going to happen. Well, I'm excited about it because even the negative things that may happen, I can learn from them. My team can learn from them. And I should be excited about the opportunity for improvement. So that's the first before I even get out of bed. Then what I'll do is I'll grab a cup of coffee. Actually, I do a liver cleanse every morning. Very simple for those of you who understand what's happened. What happens is fat accumulates around the liver. We've all heard about that, right?
Mhm.
So that if you just take a half of organic lemon and some um, uh, olive oil and some cayenne pepper.
Okay.
So it's like a tablespoon of olive oil, half a lemon, and cayenne. I drink that shot down. It cleans your liver, cleans
Really?
the liver.
All right,
It's
I'm gonna have to try that.
mhm. So remember what your liver does. Not that this is a health podcast, but remember everything that your liver does. So then I'll grab a cup of coffee, and I'll come to my desk and I'll start. I'll spend somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour on planning in solitude. Just planning my day, whether it's personal stuff, typically it's both, organizing my mind for what's coming on the day ahead. Now, depending on what time I get to my desk, like today I got here about 6:45, okay? Sometimes I'll get dialed in, but what I'm trying to do now is I'll push my meetings. That's not gonna happen tomorrow because I have a strategy session early morning. But typically now what I'm doing is I'm not taking any meetings till 11 AM, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to get my workouts in. Of course, I'm fighting something, so I'm a little under the weather today. So tomorrow, or actually I should be able to get back to it on Thursday morning. So either I'm gonna go for a 3-mile walk in the morning, I'm gonna stretch, I'm gonna, I've got some free weights in the garage.
Love that. Love that. Now, after that morning routine, let's talk a little bit about like reflecting on wins, right? Because I think that's important, right? You have to celebrate every success. So, like I say, I celebrate getting a morning workout done, right? I'm excited when I leave the gym because I know I already put a win on the board there. Also, whenever I close a deal, we literally have a Slack channel that has all of the team members in it, right? A general Slack channel, and I'll use a different GIF of a gong every time I close business. And everybody as a team celebrates that because a sale is not just my win. A sale is a win for the agency. And there's probably a lot of people that played instrumental roles in delivering that lead and that opportunity for me to close. Right. So I like doing that. I like the positive reinforcement for my team. You know, the thumbs up emojis, the fire emojis. We're having a good week. You know, people make some comments here or there. But man, I believe in celebrating the wins. I feel like it really does Yeah. It really does a great job to build momentum.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that. See what I know what I do? Excuse me.
You go out and buy another fancy suit.
No, no.
Every time Josh closes a deal, he goes out and he buys a new suit.
I'm a deal junkie, Clinton. I'm a deal junkie. So when I close a deal, I want to know what my next deal is.
I like that.
Like I'm going back to my opportunities, the board and saying who's next.
I like that. I like that a
Because
lot.
what actually, because it, one of you the most confident.
Right after you close a deal.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what a great way to go at the next deal. Yeah. Right?
Literally, I have a calendar that is published from Airtable whenever we mark a deal as win. And I look at that calendar and I can see, man, I go on streaks, right? I'll go multiple days back to back to back where I'm closing business. But then that pendulum sometimes swings in the opposite direction,
Mhm.
right? And you're not necessarily getting wins every single day or every single week, right? And you can't let that one bad week define your identity, right? You can't
Right.
let that carry over into the next day, the next sales conversation, the next week there. So talk a little bit about what you do to make sure that that doesn't happen for you. So that couple day or that couple week streak where you're not closing new business doesn't impact your ability to close more business down the road.
Well, that has to do with lead flow, right? So that you got to make sure that you've got a lead generation engine. And that's one of the things that we're working on right now so that there's more consistent leads. So if you don't have leads, it doesn't matter, right? So that we're working on an entire new campaign because it's hyper competitive. So that what stuff that we were working on 6 months ago isn't working today. Not only do you have ad fatigue and funnel fatigue, you've also got competition. So so I'll jump back into the with the marketing team and work on some of the marketing initiatives. And right now, so again, it just has to do with stages of a business and stages of entrepreneurialism. I'm working with our new sales rep on an entire new sales strategy that I don't want to get into today, but perhaps we can talk about it on another
Oh,
podcast.
I like that. A little teaser of what's to come in the future
Yeah.
there.
But again, the key is to look on your opportunities board to see what the low hanging fruit is. If you get into a slump, can you name an athlete that didn't have a slump? A great athlete. Michael Jordan had slumps. Wayne Gretzky had slumps. Some of the greatest baseball sluggers in history had slumps.
Yep.
Right. So that, you just mentioned streaky. When I played college hockey, I was a streaky goal scorer. Then I would hit a slump and the slump would lag on because the longer the slump goes, the tighter you would say you're holding your stick too tight.
Yep.
Right. so, so I think every athlete does it. So, again, the mindset is to grind it out, you gotta keep working, right? You grind it out and you're gonna listen, you keep swinging, okay? You keep swinging for the fence, you're probably gonna keep striking out, right? So, like, keep swinging. So, I go back, look for that whole low-hanging fruit, and maybe it's even as something as simple as this. So, as you know, we offer a lot of enhancements for our clients. So, what I'll do is I'll look at some of my existing clients and I'll go back to the CSMs, talk to them, what's going on with this client, that client. Maybe I can get back off the schneid, as they say, right? And at least they do that in hockey, get off the schneid and get a win by selling an enhancement to a client.
I love that. I love that.
So,
Um,
Clint, let me ask you this, because I know that one of your things that's what you've shared with me is that journaling and visualization has help you break out of those cold streaks. Tell us how you handle that.
So I have to give all credit to my wife on this one because I have never been a big believer in meditation or journaling or any of those things. But she is steadfast, does it every day, conditioned to do that. And she suggested it for me because I was having some challenges in terms of my mindset. So I literally can sit down every morning while I'm having breakfast. I actually have like a paper journal that I open up
Mhm.
and I'll write down a few things because I know what my calendar looks like for the day. I know what strategy sessions I have on there. I know what discovery calls I have on there. I know what conversations that I have for follow up there. So if I can go into the day and I can visualize, hey, I know I'm going to get at least two of these discovery calls to turn into strategy sessions. I know at least one of these two strategy sessions, I'm going to close a new deal, and I'm going to talk to this referral partner a little later. And by the end of the week, I'm going to have 2 or 3 referrals coming in from that referral partner there. And I just write it all down. And I write it all down. I document it because when I write it physically as opposed to typing, it just does something for me. right? So that's why I'm a big believer in journaling there. And then meditation is another thing that I really was never really keen on. I thought it was a little silly. My wife is a big Peloton user, so she has a Peloton row, she has a Peloton bike, and then they added the meditation option, or for as part of the membership there, and she just suggested, hey, do a 5-10 minute meditation in the morning. So now I've incorporated that as part of my routine, right? So when I get done, get out of the shower in the morning, I go do the meditation, then I go have breakfast or start preparing my breakfast, and then I'll sit down to have breakfast, and I go ahead and do that journaling and visualization. I'm looking to take it even one step further though, because Lynn Askin, who is our EOS implementer, really talks about these clarity breaks that entrepreneurs and people should be doing on a regular basis. So I'm trying to incorporate those clarity breaks either on a weekly or a monthly basis, so I can get all the stuff that's in here out on paper, so that I can do a better job of organizing it, so that I have a strategy that allows me to visualize how each one of these items is going to be executed on.
So I've blocked off Friday afternoons to do that. However, sometimes I need sometimes I have to take care of some personal stuff during, so I just leave that as a deep work block. But now what I've started doing is one Friday a month, I'm blocking off the entire day
I like that.
just for that reason. Just
I,
block.
I, as- I aspire to have that level of flexibility, Josh.
So
All right. I want to harp on one point here. The mindset thing, it's not a one-time fix. As I mentioned really early in today's episode, this is something that I have consistently struggled with throughout my life. I have peaks, I have valleys. There's sometimes that I feel like I suffer from depression. There are times where I'm on top of the world, right? I feel like $1 million, like I can close every deal, like I can handle any of my friends' problems, my family's problems. Like I feel like I'm $1 million, but what I want our audience to take away from, especially in the course of sales conversations, is none of these strategies are one-time fixes. You're not going to implement this and all of a sudden, boom, your mindset's perfect from now on. It's about practicing these things over and over and over again and introducing new strategies on a regular basis to keep things fresh. Um, Not a guru on mindset. I'm a person that struggles just like everybody else in sales, right? But I'm hoping that by sharing some of these strategies, that man, maybe it makes you 10% better. Maybe it improves your mindset just a little bit. And that mindset improvement leads to more sales, more closed business, more growth for you and your agency. And when you have that kind of growth in your life, it's going to have a positive impact on all the other things there too. So
100%. I think it's time for us to take a break so we can give our audience a word from our sponsor.
love that.
Running an agency is demanding, and as you know, the process of interviewing, hiring, and training new team members is both time consuming and costly. It can even hold back your agency's growth. We have found a game changing solution in a company called Vertrify. Just like cracking the code to closing deals, finding the right talent is essential to your success. Vertrify partners with digital marketing agency owners to help them scale faster by providing bilingual appointment centers and salespeople from Latin America. As an agency owner, your time is best spent growing the business, not getting stuck in the process of hiring and training. Vertrify's staffing solution frees you up from those time-consuming tasks so you can focus on scaling. Ready to delegate and grow? Visit vertrify.com/closing code to find pre-trained salespeople who are experts in the closing code way. Let's build your high-performance sales team together. Great. Okay, we're back. I think that it's been a great session so far. So Clinton, let me ask. uh, We've talked about a lot, and I think that the overall arching theme of this is that there's not one thing. It's like you go to the gym one time and you work out and you expect to have big muscles. It doesn't work that way, right?
No, it does
You've
not.
got to be consistent and you've got to find, what I'll say is you got to find what works for you, right?
Yep.
So whether it's affirmations, manifestation, prayer, whatever works for you, whether it's meditation or workout or a combination, um, it's all part of creating that positive mindset. And when you start to let those negative thoughts, those thoughts of, it doesn't even have to be negative, but self doubt creep into your head, to recognize that, hey, that's the devil on my shoulder. Let, let me stop it and let me reaffirm the positive things that I'm doing. Right. So
Josh,
strong.
you ever feel like you show up for service for church, and you feel like the preacher is talking to you? Like that sermon was specifically intended for you. And I feel like today's conversation was specifically intended for me. I hope the audience gets something out of this, but just this conversation and this back and forth for us today, um, really has improved my mindset because I've been struggling with it a little bit lately. Let's do some Q&A here, Josh. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Give me some quick responses before we wrap up today's pod. Okay. So,
Yep.
Josh, how do you bounce back from a brutal sales rejection?
Yeah, that's tough. We all have to do with it. So, it's like like Mike Tyson says, right? Everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the
Punch.
face. And those brutal rejections feel the same way, right? So
Mhm.
again, just like a fighter, what are you going to do? Right? You got to get back in and you got to train, right? So you got to debrief, like, what did I do wrong? What can I learn from this so I can reset my mindset and then get back in the game, right?
I like
Because
that.
that's going to happen, because on the other side of that, just like everything else on the light in life, on the other side of that is a fantastic win from a sale that you didn't expect to see, or or for a larger amount that you ever expected to come, right?
Yep. Absolutely. All right, Josh, what's the biggest mindset mistake new salespeople make?
Mm. So rookie mistakes, right? First and foremost, expecting instantaneous results, right?
Okay.
Expecting that they're going to go out and even as a s for I'll just tell a quick story. Even as a seasoned sales professional, when we started this agency, we're just about to enter our 15th year. The first person I met with was my family law attorney. She wrote me a check on the spot. And back then we were a generalist agency. I went to see a chiropractic friend that I knew for years. He wrote me a check on the spot. I said, "This is gonna be easy. Oh my god, this is gonna be easy. This digital marketing thing is easy," right? So until you run out of your network. So that's the thing that happens, is you network with friends and family just like any other business, and
Mhm.
when you reach the end of that network, what happens? So don't expect instant results, and consistency beats intensity every time, right?
Every time. Absolutely. 100%. All right. Last question for you, Josh. What's the best mindset advice you've ever received?
Hmm. Well, you can't let the highs and lows determine your mindset. In other words, you can't dwell on the lows. And you know, I can't remember who the celebrity was that said this. I think it was Tom Hanks. You know, things are going great. This too shall pass. Things are going really, really crappy. This too shall pass. There's a great book out there, by the way, that I want to recommend everyone read. This will I'm so glad we got here, because I wasn't even expecting to bring this up. I actually read this book to my children when they were teenagers. Okay. And the book is by it's called The Noticer. It's an easy read by Andrew Andrews is his name. The Noticer. I highly recommend it because it will change how you frame everything in your life and change your mindset.
All right. Give us the title one more time
The Noticer,
and the author.
bestseller. And Andy Andrews.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
I- I'm gonna have to get a copy of that.
Yeah.
I got a little trip out to Florida coming up. I need some reading material for the plane.
Looking
All right.
forward to you. The state is looking forward to seeing you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing the state. All right. Before we go, let's just talk about a couple key takeaways. First of all, your thoughts are ultimately going to shape your results, right? That's why mindset isn't an accessory. It's absolutely a necessary engine in propelling you to success, right?
Right.
And just like I am about everything, sales is emotional. The strongest closers, they don't avoid fear, they manage that fear. And I'm working hard myself to try to do a better job of managing that.
And it's okay. You're going to get rejection. And that's the number one thing I see in my coaching, as when people don't ask they don't close. They go through everything and they're afraid to close. And the reason they're afraid to close is because they don't want to be rejected. The number one reason I see lack of follow-up. They don't want the rejection, right? I'd rather have a no now than a maybe for the next 6 months, wouldn't you?
Yes, 100%. Hate chasing deals.
Let's wrap it up with a quick motivational quote. So success in sales is 80% in mindset and 20% tactics.
Woo, that's powerful. 80% mindset. Man, if I can get my mindset a little better, I can imagine what that's going to do to my close rate.
Right?
Right.
Here it comes, man.
All right, Josh, as always, my friend, this has been a pleasure. Thank you guys for listening. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe, please follow, please like, and please share this content with other folks you think might get some value out of it. Next time, we're going to be back. I think we've got a special guest joining us next time for an interview, somebody that a lot of the folks in this the agency space will be familiar with. So I'm really looking forward to that. We don't want to put too many secrets out there, but
Little cliffhanger.
yeah, there you go. There you go.
There you go.
All right, Josh, thanks again. And thank you to the audience for joining us for the closing code. Remember, unlock the code, close those deals, and we'll see you next time.
Bye for now. And ABC.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to the podcast for more straight shooting advice on closing deals that matter. Unlock the code, close the deal, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Closing Code Podcast.